Peace, 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 world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. It's crazy, man. The week has flown by. Welcome to another episode of Substantial Weekly. My name is Substantial. Glad to see everybody here. Hope y'all are having an amazing week, man. Good to be back. Good to be back doing this here in the studio at home as well, man. Hope y'all are good. Shout out to everyone in the chat already and those of you just watching. All right. Shout out to Kais and also shout out to James the Bot. Shout out to Tommy Hackett in the building as well. And hey, what up, nephew? Shout out to Namu Wonderling. Yeah, man. So we got a cool short show today because as I mentioned in the title of the video, it's vacation time over here, man. Getting ready to head out. So excited about that, man. This week has been an adjustment for those of you to know. Last week I mentioned when I went live from my mom's place in North Carolina. Just updating folks that was transitioning back into doing music full time and stuff. So freeing up a bit of time to do the show, but definitely, man, it's been an adjustment. I'm like super behind on a lot of stuff that kind of fell by the wayside while I was working full time with Words Beats and Life. Shout out to them, of course. Hey, happy Friday. What up, sis? Shout out to my sister Stacy. But yeah, as I was saying, man, it's definitely been an adjustment. Just getting back into the groove of things, doing this full time, especially transition back to doing it full time with my kids starting school. So shout out to all the youngins who are back in school now and stuff, man. Wishing y'all a great start and finish to this new year. So for those who don't know, I got two kids, and my youngest just started second grade, and my oldest just started her senior year. So yeah, man. So we started doing college tours and stuff over the summer and all of that. So just really trying to close out strong and figure out what her situation is going to be for next year and all of that, man. So we did back to school night last night, met her teachers and all of that. And yeah, man, exciting time. So it was a lot happening this week and a lot of prep for this vacation we're about to take. But back to the chat. Shout out to everyone here. Shout out to Early Bird. What up, bro? Yeah, man, I appreciate you just popping in real quick. Hope you have a great one. All right. And happy Mochi, sis. I owe you a couple of messages. Yo, my bad, yo. It's been crazy. I seen your messages pop up while I was driving, so I didn't get a chance to respond. But yeah, I hope your event is amazing. Sorry I won't be able to attend, but I hope it goes extremely well. All right. Josh, what up? Peace. What's going on, bro? All right. But yeah, man. So a couple things to cover. As I mentioned, getting ready to go on vacation. Super excited. I don't always get to just have time off and stuff, man. So when I do get some, it's really, really exciting. Looking forward to relaxing a bit. Man, it's my first time going to Italy. Been to Europe a few times and been all over Europe, but never made it to Italy. And so this will be my first time going there. It'll be my wife's first time as well as my kids. So we're excited about that, man, for sure. Oh man, I'm trying to remember what else. Oh yeah. Shout out to all the homies, man. Shout out to the Plague, my whole crew, the Plague. Up in New York. A lot of them are going to be out there as well, man. Pack FM and Tone and, Hydra. For those of you who know, those of you who've been following me a very, very long time, following my career a long time, then you already may know some of those names and stuff, man. But excited to be linking up with those brothers on the other side of the world with our families and stuff like that. This was a crazy time of year too, man, because a lot of folks were doing similar things, whether it's weddings or vacation things, and we got a lot of invites to do different joints, and unfortunately wasn't able to do everything. Yeah, man, and so this is the one we ended up picking and stuff. But shout out to everybody else, man. Shout out to the homies who had joints going on that I couldn't be there for, but wishing everybody the best. But back to the chat real quick. Shout out to Soul Tiger up in here. And shout out to Joshua McGee as well. Man, hey, man, I appreciate that, bro. Thank you, man. Yeah, man. Likewise, yo, like, my Fridays definitely feel different when I don't come here and spend this time with y'all. You know what I mean? So it's cool, getting back to it. And yeah, man, this year, closing out this year, we got a lot. We got a lot to do, man. Just kind of before we go down and do the rundown real quick of things, wanted to give y'all 2 heads up. So one, started a goal per usual. The goal for today, 5 super chats, getting back to what we were doing before. If you do send support today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, just notify me in the chat. I'll verify, and that'll count toward the 5. The goal today, if we hit our 5, what I'll do before I go today, before I hop on, this plane and go on vacay, is we'll do some live rapidy raps. You know what I mean? I already got my set mapped out with Marcus D for China and stuff. I gotta send him some of the details, and we gotta dig up 2 of the instrumentals that are missing, because 2 of these songs I've never performed live before, so that's always interesting, adding new stuff to the mix. But excited, man, excited to be going to China, and we'll talk about that tour in a bit, and the goings ons. David, what up, bro? Thanks for sending that link too, man. I'm sorry I didn't see it until after the fact, about that Zoom, that oh my God, I know his name, I'm blagging out right now, but the brother was doing this meeting with different types of artists and stuff like that. I appreciate the work that D1, that's his name, D1 has been putting in, trying to change some of the themes and some of the things that we see in the culture, not just in our music, but in our culture in general. Yeah, man, I am, I really respect what he's doing. I don't think it's this narrative that some people are trying to paint with about clout chasing. Hold up. Yeah, but yeah, man, it's been some interesting joints, and then I don't know, kind of tying with this. I'm probably not gonna dive too deep in this now, so I'm debating if I should even bring it up, but it is what it is. But if you haven't seen the Amanda Seales video that's been circulating, one black radical versus 20 black conservatives, highly recommend that y'all check it out. I've had a lot of great conversations around that video. Felt like she held her own. I felt like she did a great job, but definitely worth checking out. But the reason why I bring it up and how it kind of ties to the D1 thing, one of the people on there, on that particular episode that Jubilee posted, they were talking about, they tried to bring up the point of accountability, and how, a lot of times people aren't, like black people or whatever, aren't holding ourselves accountable for the different things happening in our community. And that was there was 2 moments in that video where I felt there were it's hard to do that stuff in real time, but I felt like there were missed opportunities, right? So one was that moment. I always find it funny when people try to make that point, because they try to make it like this accountability thing exclusively a problem in the black community, when it's just a problem in general, right? Where people in general don't always like to be held accountable. You know what I mean? So trying to make it like it's one community's issue and fully their responsibility to take accountability for the negative things that happen in that community, when the people who have literally different people, right? A variety of people and communities or whatever have, there's certain atrocities and certain things that have been done to this community that people don't even want in the history books. In other words, they don't want to be held accountable for these things, but have the nerve to ask people to like hold themselves accountable, when the way I was raised, it's like, yo, lead by example, right? Like, you don't tell me, don't tell me or anyone for that matter that I need to do a thing that you yourself are not doing. You know what I mean? And so it was just like, it was a missed opportunity or whatever to kind of reframe it like that. Like, because there's way too many examples of people in government not holding each other accountable, or like authority in general not being held accountable or holding themselves accountable, while trying to drag others for doing ultimately the same thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, let's oh, and the last point was when someone tried to bring up, and I know not everybody here is familiar with what I'm talking about, but for those of you just joining, there's this great video online of Amanda Seales, who considers herself a black radical, like versus, it's on Jubilee, versus 20 conservatives, black conservatives. And there was another thing where someone tried to point out the problem with another problem in the community is the music, right? In particular, like rap. They were basically bringing up certain rap artists and trying to point out that they were a part of the problem as well, which along with the fact, and this is where like there was a huge missed opportunity where they try to talk about us supporting that, when the fact of the matter is, if we're talking about any artist who is like mainstream or big, you do not become mainstream for the most part in this country without the support. Like, even if you're a black artist, you rarely get there to that level with the support of black people alone, right? That's not how it works. A lot of times for things in this country to become mainstream, right, it requires other communities. What's the largest population or group in the United States? It's not black people, it's white, right? And so, for example, whether we're talking about a negative act that makes music that can be viewed negatively, or we're talking about an artist who's viewed as making positive music, if they become huge in the United States, they do not reach that level without the support of white people, right? And other groups. Not just like, even if they're a black artist, even if all of us support them, oftentimes they become black famous. There's a ton of comedians, a ton of musicians who I can talk about right now, and other black people watching right now will know exactly what I mean. And then there are others who go mainstream and like become a household name, right? For example, if we were talking comedians or whatever, Kevin Hart, household name, right? Somebody like Earthquake, you know what I mean? He's black. He's black famous. You know what I mean? Black people know who he is, and not even all black people know who he is. So, yeah, man. So like, it was a ridiculous argument this person was making, and I'm just like, fam. And just, if you know me personally, or if you met me personally, it is a real pet peeve of mine listening to people talk about the music industry who are not active participants in it. And make no mistake, it doesn't matter if like I'm underground or indie or not. Like, I'm in it, right? So, pardon me, I'm in it. And because of that, like, I interact with mainstream folks. I interact with like some of the biggest organizations, like worldwide, world renowned organizations and stuff, like I'm a member of. So I get to interact with people who are like deeper into the business than me and have these conversations and I've been in this business a long time. So it's ridiculous listening to people talk about it sometimes. It's like, fam, you think you old armchair A&R, sit your ass down. You don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's get to some of these comments. All right, just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I will have to remind myself to watch the previous weekly with you and Marcus D. Yeah, man. Will the show in China be live streamed or recorded? Don't know if that's gonna be the case. I'm sure I've been seeing like photos pop up of Kenichiro Nishihara, who is touring out there right now and stuff. And he's literally performing at some of the same venues that I'm performing at. But I don't know if they're planning to live stream the shows. But I'm sure there'll be some clips and stuff and photos definitely. But outside of that, I can't make you any promises. All right. Man, David, thanks again, fam. So first question is U.S. tour. All right. So as of right now, there are no plans that are confirmed. Let's say it that way. No plans that are confirmed for a U.S. tour for the rest of this year. There are some things in the works for next year. I've already 2 dates are already booked for next year. I just haven't added them yet because ticket links aren't available and announcements haven't been made yet. But I can't tell you where these first 2 things are going to be. So right now, confirmed is on February 6th, the day before Nujabes's and Jay Dilla's birthday. We'll be doing the Think Different Tribute Jam, the second annual Think Different Tribute Jam. The theme this year will be celebrating 25 years of my debut album, To This Union the Sun Was Born. So that date is already confirmed. It's happening again in Virginia. It's going to be happening in Falls Church, Virginia. I will say that although I am looking to do a tour and tour the album throughout the year and stuff, like performing the first album, I am planning a repressing and all of that. I will say that the show that's going to happen in Falls Church is not going to be like what I do in most other places. One, because I know that not everywhere I'm going is going to have the budget to bring my band. That's one. Number 2, the other part is I'm looking to do a brunch the next day, because last year we had over 10 people who bought tickets, who traveled from really far away to be at that show. And this year we're expecting even more people to do that. So we're looking to partner, with we've already got the venue booked. It's going to be the brunch will happen at the same venue the following morning. So if people do travel, you'll have a reason to stick around the next morning, and there'll be some like exclusive stuff shared with y'all that I'll inform you. I'll share information about at a later date. So yeah, definitely look out for that. The other show that we already confirmed the budget, but the contract hasn't been signed yet, is I will be going back to Atlanta to do MomoCon again next year. So that's already in the works. The budget was already approved. We're just trying to take next steps to lock it in. The lineup is not going to be the same as last year. We're going to have a slightly different lineup, but more details coming soon. So those 2 dates, those 2 East Coast dates are already confirmed. I'm already in talks with my good friend and contact out in LA about running it back out there. So yes, next year we are like having conversations already about a U.S. tour, and I'm already thinking about what a tour of Europe can look like for next year as well. I just got to hit up the different contacts I have and see what can come of that. But yeah, man. So that's where we are. Thank you for that question. Yeah, I definitely feel like the video is worth checking out. Sis, I'm assuming you talking about the Amanda Seales joint, but yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I felt like she held her own. And shout out to those who know, she used to go by Amanda Diva as well, used to host on MTV, and she's actually collaborated with I think was it her and Kenichiro did something together, or somebody else, but one of the producers I've done a lot of work with in Japan. Like she's done music. Part of how I met her in person for the first time was we were performing together in New York. And then I met her again. I think I saw her again at a show in Brooklyn that I did with Pumpkinhead. God bless the dead. PH and Fresh Daily and Talib. We were all at the same show. Alberto, peace. What's going on, fam? Thanks for joining us. Warpath, what up? What up? My man was arguing that 3/5 rule was actually good. I was like, fam, what? Yo, it was, whew. Listen, let me tell you something, right? I I know that the easy thing to do oftentimes is when people bring these conversations up is to try to avoid these folks like the plague. But I can't stress to y'all enough the importance of learning how to have an intelligent conversation with someone you don't agree with, and how that is a great skill to have, especially if y'all are talking about something that you actually care about and you realize, and this is key, and you realize as you're talking, because one of the things I did appreciate about that video, or one of the many things I appreciated about that video, was not all of them, even though we had different views on certain things, I got the impression that several of them, even though they said things I didn't agree with, that they were there, some of them were there for truth, right? And to have real conversations about it because they genuinely care. And that's, whenever you're having these tough conversations, it's, yo, you gotta lead with that care, and then look for not just truth in what they're saying, but look for real concern and genuine love and care, right? When you're having a tough conversation with someone you don't agree with, because that oftentimes will allow you to not take it as a personal attack, and realize that, yo, it's for my comic book heads, it's Magneto and Professor X, right? Realizing that you both want the same thing. Y'all just don't agree on how we get there. You know what I mean? And even though we're talking about a superhero and a supervillain, or an anti-hero at moments, they realized that there were certain moments where, because they cared about the same thing or the same people, they had to put their differences aside to come together to get certain work done. And so, but you can't do that. You can't do that without genuinely caring about the issue. And that applies to both sides. Like, these can't just be talking points. You can't be a person that's just trying to exploit these things for the sake of exploiting it, or because it brings you attention, or it's a hot button issue and you just want to be in the conversation. Like, and so I did get the impression that several people there were like really cared about these issues, and they just were trying to get to a solution. You know what I mean? Or figure it out. And then certain people had no interest in a solution. They bring up their talking points and didn't really give a shit what anybody else had to say, Yo, is it me, or Jubilee feels like one of the worst things to come out of Dark Timeline? It's not like it promotes discourse. I don't know if I feel like it's the worst. I have watched episodes of that where I'm like, yo, this is toxic. You know what I'm saying? But I have watched it enough to see genuine moments come out of it. And unfortunately, a lot of the people aren't really there a lot of people aren't truly open-minded. You see what I'm saying? I mean, there were several times when I was watching it where I heard someone I didn't agree with say something, and it was like, I understand why you would think that. You know what I mean? That's not me agreeing with them. That's just me listening to what they said, listening to the context they gave, and then saying, I understand why you would think that, or I understand why you feel that way. So in that moment, I can acknowledge this real feeling you have, this thing you really care about, and this thing you're really upset about, right? I can acknowledge it. It doesn't mean I agree. It just means that I'm listening. I hear you. I see the context that you're giving me, and I see how you came to that conclusion. However, here's another side to it. And it's not playing devil's advocate, right? Like when you do these things, because I know a lot of times people are like, all right, but, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to do that most of the time when I'm talking to people. I'm just hearing them and recognizing that, like, yo, I get why you feel that way. I'm not a religious person, but I understand why people are religious. You know what I mean? And what I try to help them understand is, like, I don't have to be religious to believe in God or the concept of something greater than me. You know what I mean? And I don't necessarily have, in my personal opinion, I know this ain't the rules that other people live by, but in my life, which, you know, I get to decide, right? Free will. I get to decide what works for me and my family and my life. And, you know, what I've often done when I talk to people from a different religious background, or just the people in general who practice a religion, and I said this to a friend of mine who was Christian once. I was like, you know what's funny? Or I should say an associate of mine who's Christian. I was like, you know, until I told you I wasn't Christian, you assumed I was, right? I was like, why is that? And they had to reflect on that for a minute. I was like, well, why you thinking? I could tell you. I was like, because for the most part, right, like the different things that you deem to be Christ-like the things you expect people in that community to be out here doing, oftentimes like deal with, like you see overlap in what I'm doing in my day-to-day life, and in terms of what you expect from other people who walk that path, right? And part of that is because, I did grow up like a lot of like people in my community. I grew up in the church, right? But just because I stopped going to church, and just because I identify as Christian, don't mean that like I didn't take away great lessons, right, from that. And it doesn't mean that those things don't apply to my life anymore. You know what I mean? It just means that, there's parts of it, like anything in life, that there's parts that I took away and other parts that I didn't necessarily agree with and didn't feel like I needed that for my life. And so, but I just always find it funny. I'm like, like ultimately, what are we really doing right now? Like, what is the real goal, right? If ultimately you practice this faith, or you walk this path to give you, to allow you to be like, a better version of yourself, and be, pray, whether you praising the Most High, or like serving your community, or doing all of the different things. If you feel like, if you're surrounded by people who are ultimately doing that, walking in that path, they just believe something slightly different than you, but they are achieving some of the same goals. They are helping like others in the same ways and stuff like that. Their path is just slightly different. Like, at the end of the day, we're arguing over, it might not feel like semantics to you, but like it can, to me, it seems pretty ridiculous what we're fighting over right now. Because at the end of the day, if you didn't even know, if you didn't know I wasn't, just by how you see me walk through the world, then like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm all over the place today. You know what I mean? It's been a while. Maglo, what up? Good to see you. I need to see a proper concert with you, sub. Yeah, man. I know that joint you saw me at, it was cool and it was fun, but it wasn't like the typical joint that I do. I'm missing some context here, but I am familiar with Jubilee's video, including political ones. Some get incredibly heated. Yeah. We were talking about Amanda Seales' recent appearance on Jubilee. The Surrounded joint, where basically it was one black radical versus 20 black conservatives. And so a lot of people have been talking about that video. I've had some cool conversations around it this week. Felt like sharing. I used to love their videos for what it was worth. It changed seemingly the last few years, but there were some beautiful moments to come out of their old shows that reminded you of our humanity. Indeed, agreed. Substantial, do you listen to the Grits and Eggs podcast? I don't. I will shout out a podcast I am listening to. Me and my wife just started checking out, or I should say watching, not just listening to. But this is for folks who may be a little bit older. But there's a podcast called Reliving Single with Kim Cole and Erica Alexander, I think is her name. They basically are two of the stars from the TV show Living Single. Um, I don't know how many of y'all grew up watching Friends, but if you're a person who watched Friends and you love that show, a little known fact is that Friends is basically like a ripoff of the TV show Living Single. Right, Living Single came out first. It was a show like all black cast and stuff like that, and the show was owned by Warner Brothers, which also owned Friends. And so basically, you know, Living Single had, this is kind of goes back to something I said earlier, the difference between being mainstream and being black famous, right? Uh, Living Single, like in the black community, if you've seen it and you grew up with it, it's a classic, right? Like we hold it in high regard, right? Like when we talk about like Different World and all these other amazing shows that maybe not everybody knows, but if you know, it was a major part of your upbringing. And Living Single is one of those shows for me. Like I love that show. It starred Queen Latifah. Oh my God, why am I forgetting her name? But yeah, man, Queen Latifah, also T.C. Carlson, and I forget the brother name who played Overton, but basically it's three women who lived together, along with, their friend who was a lawyer who lived across the street. And then, they had two men who lived upstairs in the same building and stuff like that. And so very much like Friends vibes and stuff, and relationships and them being young professionals and all of that. So the podcast basically is them rewatching it and having conversations about some of the groundbreaking work that they did and a lot of the politics that was happening behind the scenes, how they didn't want certain characters initially, how they didn't want to put up a certain amount of money to do it, and how Fox, Warner Brothers, put the show on Fox, but didn't want to put like as much money as they would behind some of their other bigger shows. And then sure enough, they create a show called Friends, which is like basically a similar concept to Living Single, right? Because it's important to remember that it was created by the same company. Different people worked on it, but the same company created it. And they saw that this show over here, this black show over here, was a hit. And then they created a white version of it, and they put a lot more money, a lot more promotion into it, sold it to a different network, and then Friends became the classic that it is. So that's the podcast I'm listening to or watching right now with my wife. Super, super dope. I mean, it definitely connects more to people who've watched the show, but I highly recommend, if you've never seen that TV show before, it's a great show to check out. And if you're a Queen Latifah fan, not just of her acting, her music, the theme song was done by her. So she's rapping and singing on it, and it's super dope. And that type of hip hop, like that's the intro to that show, is very much in line with the type of hip hop I came up on and ended up making. You know what I mean? So shout out to all of them. Kim Fields, thank you, Stacy. I appreciate that. So yeah, Kim Cole, Kim Fields, Erica Alexander, Queen Latifah, T.C. Carlson, and I keep forgetting Overton's real name, the actor's real name. And shout out to those brothers, man, because I love the fact that, they represented, they felt like people I know. You know what I mean? They felt like, all of them felt like people I knew or wanted to know. And the messages in that show and the vibe, like, was just dope. It was really, really dope. And, you got to see two men be surrounded by beautiful, amazing, like powerful, successful women, right? And not shrink, right? Like not feel like they had to be small around them, right? They could still be themselves. Like, of course, there's like funny moments and stuff like that. Kyle has like a certain swagger and stuff, and Overton's character had like a he didn't feel like the smartest dude in the room, but he was always the most genuine person. You know what I mean? He always had that vibe, like pure of heart and stuff like that. And he was smart in his own way. Had that kind of small town feel in a big city. But you never it was never a matter of he was comic relief a lot of times, but But yeah, man, it's like he never, to me, he never felt weak. You know what I mean? And so it was dope having those examples in a show, and watching that show. It felt like my life. You know what I mean? I got a lot of sisters. I grew up in a house full of women and stuff like that, all strong women. And I was blessed to feel like, to largely most of my life not feel like I had to shrink or be less than who I was or whatever, so that the women around me had space to be who they needed to be. They weren't waiting for my permission. You know what I mean? And that's how it is to this day, man. Like they're gonna be who they are, and that's beautiful. But the best part was, they always supported who I was. And so when I watch that show, that's what I see. Super dope. Highly recommend y'all check it out if you don't know. I've seen those two reliving. Hey, David, send me a link to that grits and eggs joint. I'll definitely check it out, man. Frank, what's going on? Frank Goita in the building, saying, sup, y'all. Haven't been able to come to one of these in a minute. Can't stay long, but hope everyone is hella blessed, man. Hey, appreciate you, bro. Hope you can say the same. Hi, what's going on? La Danger Public, what's going on? Good to see you joining us. Jubilee just adds faces to the crazies in the world that sit in those seats. I can see that. You know what I mean? I definitely understand why we don't want certain folks to have a platform and do more harm, right? But the reality of it is, when we talk about like free speech, when we talk about all of these things, that's part of what comes with it. As long as, going back to the accountability thing that I was talking about earlier, as long as like whatever comes out your mouth is followed by like whatever consequences can potentially come with that. Like if you are literally pushing things when you make these appearances, because we've seen this happen with some of the people who've gone on the show, where they're pushing certain agendas that, like, because they're in that setting, they're a lot more comfortable than they are at their job, and they're saying how they really feel. So I'm a person who I love that shit. I love it. I'm like, the post office, right? Like anybody who like can't handle certain shit, I'm just letting you know. I'm gonna just recap this real situation. That post office not too far from here, getting a back and forth with the person over a parking space, right? Because I'm double parked, but it's because I can't see my daughter in the joint. I got my youngest daughter asleep in the joint. I got my older daughter running in. She's supposed to be in there for 2 to 3 minutes. It's taking way longer than it should. So I'm double parked so I can see her. Guy, older gentleman makes won't say he's a gentleman, older person makes a big deal out of something that definitely did not have to escalate to that level. And like hits my car with his arm, takes his arm and hits my car as he walks by. The first time it happens, I just assumed it was an accident. Second time it happened, I was like, oh, you looking for trouble. Yeah, so I rolled down my window. I'm like, sir, that ain't necessary. You ain't got to touch my car. And then he says, you're parked illegally. And I'm like, yes, I'm well aware. I'm also trying to see my daughter, like, who just ran in there to do something, and I can't see her parked over there. So, and then he cuts me off to say, I don't care. And I was like, cool. And then he pulls out his phone, starts taking pictures of my car. I was like, sir, go have a great day. It was like, go ahead, put your phone away and go have a great day. And then he says something about me being parked illegally. So I looked at how close he's parked to me and realized that part of the reason why he struggled to get out of his car is because when he pulled into the space, he's parked over the line, right? So even though he had the space, right? Even though he had a whole space, he's parked over the line. I was like, sir, if we're being technical, you're also parked illegally. I was like, since you care so much about that, I was like, you're also parked illegally. To which he responds, nigger. Been called nigger with a hard R twice in my life, both times in Virginia. And so he says that. And in this moment, I look him dead in his face. I was like, thanks for showing me who you really are. You see what I'm saying? And so for me, these moments where these people, All types of people. I ain't even just talking about white people. I'm talking about people in general, where they finally showed who they really are, right? I live for that shit because it makes the people like me look less crazy. Because whenever I'm telling people these issues exist or this is going on, and folks who don't want to take accountability for certain shit try to basically make it like you're crazy. Oh, that's not a thing. Oh, that, like, no, you're saying that because that's not your experience. But last I checked, we weren't talking about your experience. We were talking about mine. And I'm telling you what I've seen, not what I've heard, right? Or what my friends have told me, what I've seen with my own eyes and what I've experienced. So if that's what we're talking about, what you think the world is or what you think happens is irrelevant because we're talking about what I know, right? And so for me, those moments where people, that's why I know people don't want to see that, but like, yo, it's important you know it's happening. And even if you think it's happening and you're pretty sure it's happening and you thinking, oh, I don't need to see it, I'm like, nah, you still need to see it. Because we're dealing with people who, even when they see it, act like it ain't that. So it's important that these people need, they need to be up here stepping on these landmines out here. Let them be out here reckless. Give them an occasional platform so they can say how they really feel. Because for all the people who thought the current president wasn't as bad as they thought, and then they start backpedaling because the more comfortable he got, the more he started saying whatever. And like, it's important. Like, yo, we gotta keep record. We keep these receipts. You know what I mean? So when people, like, when we're looking to put other things in place, when we're looking to protect ourselves, when we're doing all these things, people aren't just trying to be like, oh, it's not that deep. I remember expressing concerns about a guy who lived in my old neighborhood, and I was just like, keep it a buck, for lack of a better word. I was profiling the dude, right? It's like, hey, man, it's 100 degrees outside. You got on like winter clothes, fam. Like walking through this joint, he just looked like a henchman in a movie. And I was just like, I don't know, man. I don't like to make assumptions about people, and he hasn't done anything wrong to me. But I don't know. This guy looks like people. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. He looks like people who've shot up a few schools. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, if we're talking about profiles, and I was honest with folks, I was just like, yo, I get it. Y'all say y'all know him and stuff like that, but I get bad vibes when homeboy come around. I'm just saying. I ain't gonna disrespect him because he hasn't disrespected me, but let's just say I got an eye out for Buddy. You know what I mean? So one day, he shows me who he is, right? I'm walking out. I put out my trash and stuff like that. See him walk by and stuff. I go to nod and speak. He don't say nothing. Literally punts my trash, like punts it, fam, like kicks it a good 15 feet. And I was like, whoa, that's I just put my oldest daughter in the car. My wife is waiting on me to, like, my wife sees what happens. And then after he does it, real shit. Try not to laugh. After he does it, like, yo, family. In this moment, I was just like, yo, I wish the whole neighborhood was outside. Because I'm trying to tell you, fam, I'm not just saying this because of how he dresses and this, that, and the third. I've worked with young people for a long time. And oftentimes, you see correlations and you see certain behavior and stuff like that. And I'm just telling people, like, yo, you know what I mean? My gut. Right. And I know that ain't enough to act on anything. And that's why I didn't. But when money is just like kicking my trash down the street and screaming at the top of his lungs at like 7 a.m, I mean, we might want to look into this. Because let's keep it a buck. In this neighborhood, if I did the same thing, come on, dog. People have threatened to call the police or have actually called the police on me for doing less. Like literally for sitting outside of my own building where I live, the cops were called on me. So, yeah, man. So again, it's important that we see these things, whether we like it or not, whether we think it's lifting up the wrong thing. It's like, if it's a real thing and people are constantly trying to deny that it's a real thing, then yeah, you need to see it. You need to see it. And I ain't saying we got to see it all the time, but we need documented. We need, if they willing to go on a show and speak freely and finally be honest about who they are, and they've been making these inappropriate jokes and shit in their little small clique of friends and at the job occasionally saying like shit that raise your eyebrow, but you're like, oh, I don't know about that. It's like, yeah, man, we need to make sure that when they're in their setting, there's a camera running so we can figure out exactly who's who. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let's go down the line. Hey, man, thank you for reminding me. Stacy, thank you for reminding me his name, John Hinton. John Hinton. We stopped calling that man Overton. Since you're talking podcast, what are your thoughts on Mark Lamont Hill on Joe Budden? Yo, I like the context that he gives and the perspective that he gives to certain things, even when they're talking about lighter things. I don't like the fact that it seems like these dudes don't know how to respond when he brings up really serious things. I saw that recent clip of the pivot they tried to make after he talked about all his friends in Gaza, like all the different journalists that he known like being murdered, and like how all of his peers are dead. And like that was sad. That was really, really sad. Like, so I love that he's there. It's unfortunate that some of them and most of them aren't mature enough to know how to handle those moments, right? And just certain people just don't have the tools, fam. Or they do, and because they are trying to, or they do, but because they're trying to keep it light or keep a certain vibe, they just don't handle it in the most mature way possible. They go the route of, they don't know how to pivot from in a show that's based on entertainment, right? It's supposed to be entertaining. When a serious thing comes up, like maybe they don't have enough practice, like learning how to pivot to a serious thing and then bringing it back in a way that's not dismissive of what just happened. You feel what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. Do you think it's a decent way for him to get a larger audience for some views? Feels like Jubilee situation. I do, because like, it's helpful to have a person. I feel like my boy Mecca, Mr. Mech, who y'all probably been seeing popping up a lot more places. I feel like that's what obviously he's not Mark Lamont Hill. But I feel like that's what he brought to my Expert Opinion podcast, right? Because Mecca is a serious like journalist and has been a serious hip hop journalist for decades. He's someone who's respected in the industry by all kinds of artists, and he knows what he's talking about. And he's someone who cares about politics and cares about other things, and has consistently been a solid human being for every year I've known this man. You know what I mean? So watching him on that podcast before he left, that's what he represented. You know what I mean? And I would hit him. I would literally watch an episode sometimes and call him as soon as the episode ended. Like, bro, how do you do it? How do you do it? I know what it feels like to be that person in certain situations. But man, that God bless him. But it goes back to what I was saying before. Like, when you're a person that genuinely cares about these things, making sure that you establish yourself in these situations as someone who genuinely cares about the thing, and make sure that you're engaging with people in a way that leads with love, care. You know what I mean? And so that way it usually doesn't lead to disrespect and kind of run going off the handle. You know what I mean? But shout out to Mark Lamont Hill for sure. All right. Yeah, I dig that. Accountability has to be tied to the opinions you hold. Most definitely. Yeah, man. I'm sure y'all are reacting to what I said that dude said to me. Yeah. So, Angel, what's your opinion about what's happening in D.C. Right now? Talked about it last week. I'll definitely, talk about it a bit more. As someone who's lived just outside of D.C. for most of my life, I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is literally the side of Maryland that wraps around most of D.C. And now I live in Northern Virginia. Literally, it takes me like 10 minutes to drive into DC, certain parts of DC, maybe 15 minutes. And then, I've worked in DC for a good amount of my life too. Recently with Words Beats in Life, also with Covenant House Washington, and other people I've worked with over the years. So I'm somebody who spends a lot of time out there. So this isn't something that I'm kind of watching like from an outsider's perspective. That being said, I think it feels like an overreaction to distract people from other issues, right? It feels like, it feels less like genuine concern, because if we're really concerned about like how bad some of these places are, then as I mentioned last week, there's a lot of other programs and things you can put the money into, right? Because military presence, over policing has historically not produced the results that people like. The thing that they say they're sending them in there for, right? Oftentimes when that's been done, the results that they were seeking to get aren't met. This isn't me giving you opinion. This is me speaking to you about what history has shown us, right? However, there are other investments. There are other things. Because keep in mind, be clear, like it costs money to do what they're doing. And they clearly have the money to do that thing, right? So my question is, like, when people are requesting more funding for schools, right? Or like, somebody like me who was working for a nonprofit organization, literally watching money being stripped away from us, right? We're literally offering programming that's giving the kids another place to be, right? And during the summer, literally giving them a full-time job that they're being paid for, even though they're really just attending summer camp. But we're basically the same people you claim to be so concerned about, right? Who were into all of these things. You're stripping money away from programs that largely have been keeping those same kids out of trouble and giving them something to do. And literally programs that have been writing references for some of these young people to help them get into schools, right? Or helping, writing letters for them to get in, like, not just get into colleges, but also to get jobs. Like, so you put all of this money behind like brute force, right? To stop, quote unquote, some of the things that you see in the like some of the attacks and different things that you see in these communities, while simultaneously taking away the things that oftentimes keeps those kids like focused and on the right track, and pays people who are genuinely concerned about these communities, hence why they develop these programs, hence why they've committed a certain amount of time, like decades of their life, to this work. Like, it seems like bullshit to me. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, as somebody who's been like invested in this type of work for about half of my life. I'm 46 years old. I've been working in education for 26 years, right? So more than half my life, this is the type of work I've been doing with young people. And yeah, if you really care about that, like literally, I'm telling you this also as somebody who's literally worked with the police while working with young people, right? Like I've mediated situations between police officers and young people when shit got out of hand. have literally, been in situations like right after the uprising in Baltimore. I'm up there doing the show, and like a cop was called because of a situation involving like a young lady being being physically attacked by a young man. And like like I was still on stage when it happened, but when I come out, the brothers who I know who run the space, they already addressing it. They got it under control. The woman's safe. The young man, cops show up or whatever as I'm talking to, because I end up talking to the dude because I was just like, yo, I appreciate, but like my man, like he hot and he walking off. We don't know where he going. And so, I just start walking behind the dude. Shout out to my man Femi the Dry Fish out of Baltimore. Any of y'all know him, or if you don't know him, you can verify all the shit I'm saying to you. I walk the dude down. My man walked behind me. We proceed to talk to this young brother for like an hour plus, just to bring him down while like the event can end and then folks can get to safety. Young woman can do her thing. Cops show up, proceed to tell them, was like, hey, we got it. Y'all good. Y'all ain't got it. Like, you could talk to her if she want to take it to another level. She got a right to. So maybe talk to her, but otherwise we got this. You know what I mean? We got him in the meantime, right? And everything going cool until like, I ain't gonna put any names out there until a random person, not a random person, but somebody I know comes up because they tired of waiting. And they basically say something they ain't need to say. And then it escalates again. And then once it got out of control, we were like, hey, we respected the fact that the police officer gave us the time to try to talk to our people and de-escalate the situation. Because we already knew that if he ain't listening to us, he definitely ain't gonna listen to you. And then that shit gonna go how it's gonna go. But like, we appreciate the fact that the officer gave us a chance to try to bring it down. And for the most part, we did, until somebody who wasn't in the mix with us and didn't really know what was happening, but they just knew they were ready to leave. And then they said some shit that made it escalate again. But at that time, we realized, we did everything we could do. Now, okay. You see what I'm saying? So, but that's what it looked like, man. Like, and let's be real. Most people don't want to do that work. But what I got a problem with is when you see that you got a community of people who are doing that work, but you don't want to add funds to to those schools in those communities. You don't want to give them the same type of funds that you're putting into these wealthier communities and stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. But you want to send the cops through, you know what I mean? To kind of bully people into doing right. Like, that ain't it. More is caught than taught. Like, if you want somebody to do the right thing, you got to show them what it looked like. You know what I mean? So you being judged by people who ain't living right themselves, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, there's nothing you can do for me. There's nothing you can do. Get your life in order. You know what I mean? Do what you're supposed to do. And you got the power to do what it is you're supposed to do, or what you could be doing to make that situation better. But you're literally stripping money away from folks because they are challenging you on things that you should be challenged on. That's the whole reason why you're in that position, right? People don't think it's going well. They should be able to give you feedback, constructive or otherwise, to let you know how they feel. And so, yeah, man, it's ridiculous to me, man, just watching all of this stuff, And again, it's like, I'm not an onlooker. I'm not like a random person this shit doesn't touch. Like, I'm out here, man. So yeah, it's ridiculous. When the mask comes off, they don't know how to act. Indeed, going back to the other thing we were talking about. Yeah, brother, you definitely should listen to the Grits and Eggs podcast. I'm down to check it out, man. Thank y'all for the recommendation. I don't know if you're aware of the president's recent comments on museum. Yeah, of course I am. Of course. But it's infuriating and disgusting targeting history like that just because he doesn't like it. Yeah, and I'm sure he ain't has shit to say. Like, when people were like literally like going into the museum and leaving nooses in the African American Museum, right? I don't know if y'all been was hearing about that type of stuff in the news, right? Or like or kids taking field trips, large groups of like white kids who were brought to the museum intentionally wearing like "Make America Great Again" hats, you know what I mean, or shirts and shit, like when they came to visit, like. And I'm telling you, not things that I heard about. You know what I'm saying? Now, the news thing is something that, like, yes, I saw on the news, but also I know people that work there. You know what I mean? So they confirmed it, right? So people who witnessed it firsthand are the ones I got that information from. But the second thing I mentioned, I saw that with my own eyes when I literally was taking a group of, like, 50, like black and brown kids to this museum. And then, and these kids are instantly triggered before we even start the tour because they pull up and there's a bunch of bunch of red hatters, you know what I mean, pulling up to the museum. It's like, yo, you intentionally wore that today. You don't wear that every day. You ain't wearing that at home all the time. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, anyway, fam, we going to, look, I was here to talk about other things today. You know what I mean? I've been profiled by the police just for riding a bike to buy food for my girl. Man, listen, I feel you. Look, I was coming out of my apartment when I was like 16 or 17, because I basically would go to school from 7:45, and then because I was in the art program, the VPA program at Suitland, I would be there till like 4:10. But we had like 15, 20 minutes between my last class. The end of the day, and I would dip out of school real quick to go to my apartment complex was right behind the school. So I'd go to my apartment. My mom would leave food in the microwave for me because she worked the evening shift. And so, I would go home, heat up the food she left for me, eat real quick, and then come back to school because I'm starving. I had like an early lunch. And fam, I remember dapping up the homies as I'm walking into the building. One of the neighbors called the cops. And then, as quick as we come back out, as quick as I come out the joint, I think my man was with me. And we come back out of the joint. And as we're coming out, cop literally is coming around the corner, rolls his window down, got the gun pointing out his window. It looked like a damn drive-by was about to happen, right? And like literally is pointing his gun out the window, telling us to freeze. Now, for context, part of the reason why, like, I guess he got jumpy is because, hey, man, you ever eat a lot of food, and then when you eat a lot of food, you loosen up your belt a little bit, so your hands, like, right around your waistline, and then, like, maybe you patting your stomach. That's exactly what I'm doing, because I just crushed this food, and I had eaten all day, so, like, or since lunch. And so I'm rubbing my stomach, my hands, like, slightly under my shirt, and I'm rubbing my stomach, and I'm just talking to my boy. And like, the cop literally like had his gun drawn and was pointing out the window while his car's still moving as he pulled up on us, and then had us hemmed up. I ended up being like 30, 40 minutes late for class, for the after school classes, like off that joint. So, and bro, that's just one situation, but I can tell you, I got more than a few. I got more than a few. So yeah, man, I get it. It's no bueno. No way that dude yells into the sky after putting your trash. Bro trying so hard to be the Hulk. It's almost sad. Yo, it was insane. Again, I'm blessed that someone else was there. My wife witnessed it too. So, just so y'all know, I ain't just making up shit for y'all. I'm like, stranger than fiction. A distraction from certain files. Indeed. Peace. Hey, what up, Kevin? All right, what's good? What's up, Porter family? Got here mad late, but glad to make it here. Been a few Fridays since I've been able to make the live. Man, we happy to see you, homie. But hey, man, I got to get out of here because I got a flight to catch. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Just want to plug something real fast. I just realized the joint went away, so we got to fix it. Hold up. Let's get this up here. Give me 1 second, y'all. And then we'll head out. All right. So once again, China Tour 2025. Let's see. On September 4th, we are at the Blue Note Beijing. September 5th, we are at Sound Republic Live House on Guangzhou. And then September 6th, we are at Bo Live in Shenzhen. And then September 7th, we are at the Blue Note Shanghai. All right. And when I say we, I'm talking about me and my brother Marcus D. So, man, shout out to those of y'all. I know a lot of the folks who are based in China don't necessarily watch the live all the time. But based on a few comments that I've seen pop up on YouTube here and there, clearly a few do. So those of you who plan on attending the show, man, I can't wait to see you. Thank you for the support. And I'm glad that this is finally happening because, been talking to a lot of fans over the years from that region who've reached out and said they wanted to see me do something there. And shout out to all the promoters who've consistently hit me up asking me to come out. And so it's all happening, as Justin Hunt would say. All right. Just a reminder, new music out right now. You can check out this new song by me on all streaming platforms. I think it says Market. I think I said this last week, but I think it says Market. And definitely check it out. You can. It should be like my most recent release track on all of the platforms. But we played it on the show like a minute ago. Y'all seem to dig it. Definitely check it out. Stacy, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Send some applause for that. Thank you. I do not think we hit our goal today, but I will verify real quick because I know I got to run. Let's see. Yeah, thank you so much, Stacy. All right, so we did get one joint, but it looks like that's all we got today. So we didn't hit our goal of 5, and I do got to run, but I got y'all hopefully next week. So yeah, man, I'll be back in town next Wednesday. So we should have a live next Friday. I do have an event. I will be at what's it called? I will be at T-Con, T-Convention next Friday and Saturday, and I'll be doing a brief performance there. All right, but on that note, let me get out of here. Hold on, boom. Also out right now, the new Music of Evo 2025 project called Pressure. Check out the new song with me, Zed, Casey Lee Williams, and Mega Ran. That is out as well as check out the single One Prize by me and Marcus D from our new album coming soon. And Adultus 2.0 out right now. On that note, I'm out of here. Y'all have a great one, man. God bless. Y'all have an amazing weekend. Be safe. All that good stuff, man. I love y'all. Appreciate the love. All right. Take care. Peace. And you know what time it is. Time for Destiny's favorite part of the show. All right, y'all. Who made it to the end? Who made it to the end? You made it to the end. Who made it to the end? Who made it to the end? You made it to the end. Yo. Who made it to the end? You made it to the end. Who made it to the end? You made it to the end. Who made it to the end? You made it to the end. Yo. Subscribe, like, do whatever you like. Stay subscribed, like, do whatever you like. That's right.